everyone, and welcome back to episode number 9 of the Sim Racing in Focus podcast. This is a podcast where we talk about sim racing, as the name suggests. I'm your host, Dean Redder. I am the owner and editor of a small website known as simracinginfocus.blog. We produce blog-style articles and also this podcast. On tonight's episode, we head straight into an interview with one of Australia's fastest growing YouTube personalities in the sim racing scene. That is Alex K of Alex K Racing. He's a streamer that is now just about everywhere, from YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, TikTok, you name it, he's there, and he's producing all sorts of high quality content around his immersive sim racing setup. Strap yourselves in. This is a long episode, but it is incredibly engaging, and I left this episode really impressed by Alex and what he had to say, and it's not hard to see why he is having the success that he's having right now. So by all means, this one might take a couple of listens to get through it all, but I hope you enjoy it and certainly enjoy what Alex has to say about his journey so far. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Sim Racing in Focus podcast. On tonight's episode, we have got another guest finally back on the show after a few weeks off. But tonight we welcome Alex from Alex K Racing and his streaming platforms. Alex, mate, it's a pleasure to have you on tonight. Big warm welcome. How are you doing?
Good, mate. It's a pleasure to be here, Dean. Thank you for that, for inviting me to this.
Absolutely not a problem at all. So looking forward to this one tonight. It's good to get a few new faces on the program, and definitely get in. And tonight we've got a bit of a unique angle with yourself, with how you've managed to grow your own, streaming and YouTube channel. But I might just invite you to come on and talk a little bit more about what it is that you do, and just fill people in.
Yeah, sure, Dean. I mean, it started off as just a regular kind of sim racing channel, like what you would see on, other platforms like Twitch and YouTube, with people kind of just having their game footage of whatever their simulator they're racing on the screen, and just having a webcam on there. But, after a while, I kind of saw a lot of other situations where people were making it feel like, you're in the car on YouTube, right? There's some other people out there, like some other Australian people, like Boosted Media. It's probably a well-known one, where they do a lot of that footage where it looks like you're in the car. And I just saw myself seeing that, thinking I would love to do something like that. I would love to feel like I was in the car, but at the same time, I would love to make people feel like they are in the car with me, so that they can experience the same thing. And that's how this whole, immersive sim racing content started, where, essentially we use a triple screen monitor setup with a aluminium profile rig. And then we employ, various props like safety nets. And now with our new hypercar theme rig, we have these 3D molded restraints, whatever you want to call them. I think, restraints, yeah. And we tailor the content, like it doesn't matter if it's on the YouTube or the live streams, where when the viewer's watching, they feel like they're in the car experiencing the race with me, and to a certain extent looking at it through my eyes. And that's basically what most of the content's centered around. There isn't a set kind of racing. I mean, a lot of it is GT3 racing, but now recently it's been a lot of the the hypercars, or the GTP, whatever you want to call them. Depends on the series that we're in. But yeah, it doesn't matter. There isn't one simulator that we use either. It's quite variety. It doesn't matter. Assetto Corsa, iRacing, Automobilista, ACC. You can do anything in this simulator, and basically it's just like, well, what are we going to do today? And take the viewer on a trip, make them feel like they're in the car.
Yeah, well, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head with the immersive label that you put on it, and that's what's been so intriguing to me is
Mm,
you've kind of taken it all the way to the end game as such, haven't you? As like what people might think that they could build their simulator into, but you've got it as close to the real thing as you possibly could in your lounge room or whatever room it is in their house that you're using that particular setup in. Um,
mm.
we'll get a little bit more into the rig build and things later on, but you know, I think you did touch briefly on it there. How long have you been going with this channel, and when did you actually first get into sim racing? Is that fairly recent, or have you been around for a while now?
I would say not as long as what a lot of other people have. I wouldn't say I'm new anymore. So I started sim racing at the end of 2021.
Hmm.
Yeah, end of 2021. So it's been 2 years and a bit now, and I was never. I don't have any kind of motorsport background or anything like that. I was never really into motorsport because, for me
Okay.
personally, I feel like if you don't know much about motorsport and then you see like a Formula One race on the TV, if you don't actually understand what's happening and how the drivers are doing what they're doing and how hard it is to actually do what they're doing, you're not feeling the same kind of excitement when you're watching it. And I remember, when I was a kid, you'd have the Australian Grand Prix on, and it would just be like the thing that's in the background when the family's over, and you'd have a
Yeah.
barbecue or something. You just have the cars on in the background, and it kind of just looked like they were on rails following each other. You didn't really get that feeling, but I remember that this was during the lockdowns, obviously. I remember seeing that Drive to Survive series, right?
Yes.
And
Yep.
I mean that's obviously that got a lot of people into F1. It's especially people just in general who would never even consider motorsport interesting. And they did a good job of dramatizing the whole thing. Like they even managed to make like practice and qualifying sessions seem like this amazing movie.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, exactly. And I mean, I never really like. I love cars. Like I've always loved cars. Like in terms of the aesthetic, the sound. I've never really been too much into the inside of them.
Yep.
And when I was a kid, I loved to play like Need for Speed games and Gran Turismo. I remember Gran Turismo was a big one, and that's actually how I got started on this. Was after watching Drive to Survive, I was like, oh, I think I have Gran Turismo Sport on my PlayStation. I might just throw that on and see how I like it. And then that's how it started. I mean, you start playing on a controller and you think, oh, if I got a wheel, I might be a bit better. So I went and bought a Thrustmaster wheel, and 3 years later, yeah, that's how we ended
Yeah.
up with this abomination in the room down here.
I find that really fascinating that you actually come from essentially no real either sim racing or motorsport, even
Mm,
fandom, let alone background, and to be where you are already at, yeah, sure, you're not sort of considered a new to sim racing, being around for 2 years, but it's still an incredibly short period of time to
mm,
go from getting into sim racing to where you are now. And I'm sure we'll get a chance to discuss that further and about how you've grown what you've created here. But I just relate to that, what you were talking about with getting into sim racing and where you started with your rig setup, because I got a mate that was similar, that come into iRacing, and yeah, around about a similar time, and he's like, oh yeah, well, I've got my
mm.
Logitech, and I've brought my next level wheel stand, and I'm set now. And I remember that all I said to him is like, you're at the start of a very, very slippery slope. It doesn't end there, trust me. And especially if you pick up those more hardcore sims like iRacing, or
Yeah.
whatever those online ones, you you never just you never really stop there if you've got the ability to go and buy more gear. And that's certainly true in your case as well.
Oh, it's funny you say that too, because the next level racing stands was what I started with. I had a Thrustmaster T300 and the next level wheel stand. And I would, because when we first bought this house, so I'm using the room downstairs.
Yep.
And it was originally just like a game room where I had like a TV on the wall, and I had a table which had my computer and my PlayStation on it, and I would just kind of, and I had a recliner, and I would just kind of recline and play, games on my PlayStation or use my PC with like a lap board, one of those wireless lap boards.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
and I just ended up parking the next level racing stand in front of the recliner. It was the most awkward seating position, but it worked for me at the time.
Yeah, I think a lot of people can relate to that. You hear people with ironing boards and all sorts of weird
Oh,
contraptions.
yeah.
I remember I went down the avenue of, I think, uh, a channel that was, I'm not sure if you would have, yeah, similar to Boosted Media.
Mm.
Oh wow, it was probably the first big YouTube channel that were doing in-depth reviews and sim. I can't believe I can't remember it
There's
right now.
so
Anyway,
many these days, aren't there? Yeah.
yeah. So um, they had a downloadable PDF plan of how to construct your own wooden rig, and I remember getting
Mm.
that and then going to Bunnings. So this is when I decided that I had to have something permanent to put. I started with a T300 as well. I had to mount this to something, and yeah, so I went out and I built this wooden rig, and it was so heavy, but man, did it not move at all. So I'll have to
Mate,
remember what that page is called. I know they no longer exist, but some of the people that were
mm.
on that channel have started their own spin-off channels. So yeah, interesting one.
Yeah, I've seen a fair few of those wooden rigs. It's quite clever. I think the only issue that you run into those ones is that over time the wood starts to split where the bolts are, I think, as the rig as the frame kind of buckles under the force feedback. I don't think it would be a problem with like a belt wheel, like you said you were using a
Yeah,
Thrustmaster
no.
like I was. But there are people I've seen who do use like direct drive wheels on those, and they're okay for a few months, but then you'll start to see like the wood kind of split where the bolts are or where they've been screwed into. But they're definitely they are an option, and you can save a lot of money doing it that way.
They're definitely a way. Like I would say to people that you could you could maybe go a little bit more expensive with your first bit of hardware, like whether it's your wheels or your pedal, and
Mm.
save on your frame by coming up with something like that. But I think with like the why then probably not so prevalent now is it just wouldn't stand up to load cell pedals, like
Oh
the
yeah,
force
no.
on because it was just like an MDF plate for the pedal set, and yeah, usually you get your flex and your chips and whatever happening around those bolt holes, and then it
Yeah.
starts to move around. So that's when it becomes unusable. But yeah, definitely a fun beginning to it all. So you can
Yeah,
definitely relate that.
fun little project for you.
Hi there, everyone. I'm sorry to interrupt the podcast, but I had to make you aware of some exciting news, and that is the first sponsor of the Sim Racing in Focus podcast, and that is Camus. Camus have been kind enough to jump on board and back Sim Racing in Focus, both our podcast and an upcoming blog series, through their C5 product line. The C5 is a direct drive wheelbase and pedal set, and is the first of its kind by incorporating both wheelbase and rim into one easy-to-mount unit. The small compact design boasts a 5 Nm direct drive motor, a rim that includes 20 mappable buttons, 3 rotary encoders, a digital display, 2 paddle shifters, and 10 RGB LED rev lights. This product provides direct drive equipment to entry-level racers with a wide range of supported games for PC users. If you're looking to get into sim racing, or even considering a second wheel option for use away from your main rig, or for maybe a young up and coming sim racer in the household, then the C5 is definitely something that should be in consideration. The C5 direct drive wheelbase and pedal set is available for as little as $300 Australian dollars, and you can find their products at the Chemist website, which would be linked in the show notes below, with also a 5% off code. So I'd like to thank Camus once again for supporting the Sim Racing in Focus podcast. I'm excited to let you all know that the blogs will be making a return soon, and we'll cover off the C5 product line in much more detail within those series of blogs. So with all that being said, it's time to return to the show.
All right. Well, I would say we crossed paths for the first time maybe in the Premier Endurance League. What would it be? Maybe 6 months ago, 9 months ago now. And
Oh no, I didn't crash into you, did I?
some people would probably say it was the other way around. That I crashed into you.
Wait.
You remember it now.
McLaren,
Oh, you
Barcelona.
No, well, that could have been a separate incident for the one after. No, but we had a coming together at I think it was Monza.
Oh yeah, I remember right at the end now. Yeah.
Yes, that was like. I remember
watching.
Mate,
I was filthy about that race. Not the incident with you; it was already done before that. I was just filthy about that safety car that came at the end there.
Well, but yeah, and I was exactly the same. So to set the scene, I think it was like a 2-hour long endurance race around Monza in the Premier Endurance League, and we were running in. I think you were in second and I was in third.
I was in second, yeah and, something like that. Yeah,
and there'd been an earlier safety car, and some people pitted, and it sort of split the strategies, and we were all set to go green to the end, and then there was a safety car with I know we weren't green to the end, but we had a significant gap over that chasing pack that was probably big enough for its pit stop. But then the late safety car meant we had to pit under yellow, and we went from second and third all the way back down to, I don't know,
seventh, I think it was. I was so confused. I was sitting there thinking, like saying because I was streaming the race too, and I was like, "How's this happened? Like, what did I do? Like, what actually happened?"
And I can't even recollect where my mind was at. I think it was literally the last lap of the race, and
there's only a couple left.
Yeah, and we had it would have been the turn 4-5 chicane at Monza, and I think I had a couple of cars in front of me, and then I just didn't cover, and then you've just gone up the inside, and I just panicked, and I think I pinned us both, but you more so than me, and then I still managed to go on and take the checker flag, but I ended up getting like a 30-second post-race penalty because I moved under brakes, and I just
I ended up finishing 10th, I think it was, or something.
Yeah, and I just remember thinking to myself, wow, like I can't even, there's just no excusing that. Like, yeah. And I remember people looking back and just going, oh, he's done that deliberately, on your stream, and I'm just like, I just had a total brain meltdown.
No, I think you just closed the door late, that's all, mate.
It was like, I was like just genuinely surprised because I was thinking about doing the same thing to the car in front of me, and I wasn't watching what was going on behind me. And then I sort of went, do I go? Or last minute I went, oh, nah, I'll just go back in behind the car. And then I seen you last second, and I'm like, oh shit, block him. And then I'm like, nah, that's just too late.
It's always that I feel like a lot of incidents happen because of indecision.
Yes.
Like half the time, if you think, should I do this, and you just do it straight away, it ends up working. But then if you hesitate, that's when it goes wrong, kind of thing.
Yeah, well, I think it would have, if you're clear of mind, like, and at the end of that 2-hour long race, like, you're in the same headset as me, where I'm raging because we should be coming second and third and clear of everybody, and you're just not thinking straight, and you make. I should have just moved across to both potentially have a crack, and also just to cover you off, and then ended up doing none of the above, and just ended up tripping you over. So sorry about that one.
No, but you see that's the thing. Like that's the thing that's always been with me. Like it's racing. You know what I mean? One of the things I've seen that's a common factor is, like, it doesn't matter if you're playing iRacing or just any racing sim in general, or you're watching like the Formula One. These crashes happen all the time, and they happen exactly. That's one of the cool things about sim racing, is they happen often just like they happen in the actual sim too. You know, things like closing the door late cause incidents, and it happens. So if I get involved in an incident, I usually get mad about it for like the first 5 seconds, and then I'm kind of just like, well, that's racing. It's just it adds to the excitement. It's, it wasn't my day today and I got spun out or taken out. but then next week I'll have a race and some poor bloke in front of me will get absolutely obliterated, but it wasn't me. So you know what I mean? It wasn't my time. So yeah, like it's just one of those things where it adds to the excitement of racing. And I've always been the kind of person, as long as I'm next to someone, like having a crack with them, like I'm happy. Like that's all I want. Doesn't matter if I'm in first or if I'm in second last. As long as I got someone to share the track with and have a good fight, then that's what I enjoy.
I think when I sort of sat there after that race and I thought to myself, it was already going south, but I just made sure I put that final nail in the coffin by doing that. But I think you and I think that for maybe the early parts of that, and I've been doing some thinking about it in case you can't tell. Yeah, and
yeah, just a bit.
But apart from maybe the early start of the race, and you go back and you can watch that race, we were at it for well over an hour. So it was and it was a back and forth, and during different parts of the race, you would get out to a couple of second lead, and then I would have a turn in the lead, and it was just a bad way to finish what had been like it's such an awesome race, and that's to go on the part that you said, like, if we had it finished and at the end of the day we would, like, that was just an awesome race just for how long we were sort of interchanging positions on track for over an hour, and then unfortunately the safety car was the first issue, but then the last lap will go down in history.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Well, that was a cracker of a race because we got lucky in the first place, because I remember whoever was in first and second, they crashed with each other. They were teammates and they crashed with each other on the first lap in the chicane.
That's
so it put me in third. It put that bloke Jeffries in second in the Porsche. And I had the most fun battle with that guy. Like it lasted I think an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And it was me and him just constantly back and forth. And I ended up getting him eventually. But I mean, that guy's lightning quick. So I think he would have got me eventually. It was kind of like when I got in front of him, I was just defending for my life. I was just terrified.
And because the draft was so overpowered at Monza, as I'm sure anyone that knows anything about racing would understand that. And so it was one of those races where it was easier to be the following car than the leading car. And it was a fun race. And there was a couple of races in that Premier Endurance League like that where it felt like it went on for ages, just the battles, but certainly fun. But anyway, so a bit of time's passed since then. So give us a little bit more of a bit of an understanding. You've already mentioned a few titles that you are showcasing on the channel, but what titles do you cover with your videos?
So look, it started off with the Assetto Corsa Competizione, or ACC. I can't stand saying the full name, man, because every time I get up to the Competizione part, I feel like I'm just trying to be a fake Italian or something, you know. we need Rick in here to give us the authentic pronunciation. Yeah. So we started off with ACC because I mean, I guess I've always loved like F1's cool. But I've never really regarded F1 cars or Formula 1 cars as a car, because I just feel like they're a machine bred for speed, for racing. You know, they don't look like a car to me.
Yeah.
But that's why I guess made me gravitate towards like GT3 racing, because they're cars that you would see on the street. You know, you would see every now and then an Audi R8 on the street, or a BMW M4 or a Lamborghini. You would see these cars, and then seeing them with all these really cool body parts on them, or aero pieces.
Yep.
And then the fact that the racing, it's like everyone will tell you that the slower the car, the better the racing. And it is true. But the fact that these GT3 cars can do a bit of bumping, and, you know, when you overtake another GT3 car, it's not kind of like you just fly past them and then you're done. It's a very slow, grueling battle where you could end up being in a fight with them for like 2 hours, 3 hours. And that's what really makes the racing fun, because it's like every race is like a story, you know?
And then you've got the added element of strategy especially in those longer races, endurance races.
Yeah,
where
exactly.
You feel like you could finally get in front of somebody only for them to come back by not having to take as much fuel in the pit stop.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. I mean, that's just endurance racing. But we started on that, and then I started doing a little bit of Automobilista too. Like for me, Automobilista 2 was my favorite for a long time, but it wasn't because of the driving feel. I've always said that the driving feel, the physics of the game, they're kind of lacking, like especially the force feedback. I can't really fault the developers on that game because I don't know if you know or not, but that game was built off of the engine from Project Cars 2, which was made in what year? I don't even know.
Yeah.
Early 2000s, maybe. I can't remember the top of my head, but it is a dated engine, but a very intelligent one, capable of like a lot of calculations.
Yep.
Especially with weather, like track progression, track evolution with rain.
Yep.
Really good for that. The problem is that, I don't know, for me, the force feedback always felt a little bit dim. But what that game does well is that, like, the visual aspect.
Yes.
It's so, I wouldn't say it's realistic though. It's not photorealistic. It's immersive, but not realistic. Like, everything just looks. I think what I would say is, if you took a photograph of something, right? Say you took a photograph of a scene,
Mhm.
and then you added a bunch of effects to it to make it look more like art.
Yep.
That's what AMS2 is in sim racing. They've taken like realistic looking graphic preset, and then they've exaggerated the sun rays. Everything just looks a little more romantic and immersive, and that's what really drew me to the game, because you've got that, and then you've got all these tracks that you can choose from because of the diversity that game offers.
Yeah.
And then all these cars, like, you can drive open wheelers, you can drive those old those old E-series BMWs one they used to
Yes.
race, the DTMs. Like, so fun, those cars. Like, driving them on Nordschleife, you can't really do that on any other sim.
Yeah.
So I think that's what really gravitated me towards it. And then after that, then we started doing iRacing.
Mhm.
And I've always liked iRacing because, for me, it's more the convenience. It gives like the kind of like the best online racing platform, because you can just click a button and join a race, and you get matched with people more or less the same skill level as you. You probably do get good racing on it most of the time. But I don't know. I'm a sucker for graphics, mate. You know,
Yeah.
I like nice looking visuals. That's the thing. And iRacing, the newer tracks look nice, but something about it, it's kind of like the car models look nice, but then it's kind of like it's got like a washed over filter over it that makes it look old. I don't know what it is, but I enjoy it for the racing. The car feels pretty good. What is it? The tire model on iRacing.
Yep.
Look, I'm not a professional race car driver, mate. I couldn't tell you if
Yeah.
it's realistic or not.
Yeah.
It does feel good. I just get surprised sometimes with the way the car, like the tires, will lose their grip. Especially with those hypercars. Like, I was telling the guys the other day, we were talking about it because obviously we're playing Le Mans Ultimate now, so we're kind of comparing the hypercars in that game compared to the hypercars or GTP cars in iRacing. And I was saying, in iRacing, you could brake at the same spot in those hypercars 100 times, and then on the 101st time, you're braking the exact same way, and the car will just spin. I don't understand it. It just feels like there's almost an RNG factor to it.
Yeah. Okay.
It's probably a skill issue. Look, I'm not going to lie. It's probably just me being bad. But yeah, there was something about it. I could never feel a certain level of consistency in the cars in iRacing, like all of them, to be honest. From what I've been told, you're meant to kind of drive under the limit in iRacing. Well, yeah, apparently you're supposed, like, if you lose the tires, your lap times after that are gone. Apparently, like, if you lose your tires.
Well, I was listening to another podcast who probably know more technical information than me on this, but yeah, they talk about heat cycles through the tires, and then it all goes on tire heat, and if your tires have been operating at a certain temperature, then for X amount of time, then there will be a drop off, and if you have, let's say, moment spins, lock-ups or whatever, you're putting more heat, the drop-off's going to be sooner. So it sort of works a little bit like that, which is a little bit different from car to car. It's not the same. But I've done most of my racing in iRacing's been with the V8 supercar, which is a car that is incredibly temperamental with tyres. So it's
a death trap.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. It's a death trap.
Yeah, and so you learn early doors in that car about the tire, about what it means to hang on to the tire, and just essentially letting guys go to their own demise, and then you come back later in the race and little instances like that. But yeah, I started in a similar place with Project Cars. I was actually more into Project Cars 1. And
Okay.
then I didn't really dabble in 2. But yeah, I can relate to what you're saying about I always used to describe it to someone as almost in the exact same way, but you just pump the vibrance filter up on whatever
Yeah.
the image is, and it just oversaturates the screen with color. Um, and yeah, I found I liked the racing, the driving better on Project Cars 1, but that's a long time ago now, so maybe I'm looking at that through rose tinted glasses as well.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, yeah, I think that's probably AMS2's strongest. It's just, it looks so damn good. Like, it's so good to look at, man.
Yeah.
Honestly.
And so you're into Le Mans, so iRacing and Le Mans Ultimate, and that pretty much covers off all your video content, what you're recording on.
Yeah, we do a little bit of Assetto Corsa. Obviously, Assetto Corsa is a lot of, like, the potential is so high with that game, but there's a lot of finicky stuff that has to be done. Like, there's a lot of modding. I kind of figured it out as I went, and it's not too bad, but it is dated. The problem with Assetto Corsa is obviously it's harder to get like racing with other people.
Mm-hmm.
There are some platforms, like I know Low Fuel Motorsport does cater towards Assetto Corsa now, which is good, but it is still a little bit finicky in the way it operates. But you can't really blame them; it's an old game. But I think in terms of visuals, Assetto Corsa with mods is still probably up there. Possibly, it's still the best, I would say.
Yes, I have noticed some videos. Like I always get like just through the algorithm videos pop up, and some guys have been able to, with the mods, been able to take that to. I thought I was looking at there was a video I was only watching a day or two ago. I thought I was looking at like Forza Horizon 5 or whatever the latest Forza was, but it was actually a Assetto Corsa with a mod. And because at least the Forza graphics on the latest gen have been pretty good, and Assetto's traditionally, because of, like you said, how old the game is, haven't been up to that standard. But they've also got Assetto Corsa 2 now coming out, don't they? So that'll be an interesting one, I'm sure you might look into.
Yeah, hashtag soon. I don't know, whenever they decide to bring it out. Look, the only thing is, I hope that people don't get a little, like, I hope that people don't get carried away with what they're expecting with it, because what made Assetto Corsa good was the modding, right? Because essentially before that, there was a good collection of cars there when the game came out. Because I remember I bought Assetto Corsa 2 when it first came out. I remember on Steam, and there was a decent amount of cars on there. It was okay. But that's not what made the game good. People started making like traffic servers where you could just drive through traffic, on the highway. Like, there's so many different scenarios, and people made, replicas of real cars that the actual developers themselves can't put in there due to licensing restrictions. So I hope that people realize that they're going to get that game when it comes out. It's not going to have as much content as they think, but then because obviously they're going to allow modding for it straight away from what I've seen, because they know that modding is what makes that game. Give it a few months and then you'll have like pretty much the same Assetto Corsa, but with a better engine and just more modern features.
Yeah, because it's almost their business plan now. Is that modding? They've owned that section of the market and done it well, and I think everyone knows that. Assetto's where you go for mods, and most people that are probably playing it as their number one sim aren't even playing the base game at all anymore.
No, it's just it's an abomination, mate. They've injected that many things into it. It's not even the actual game anymore.
I just love I love the underground burnout scene, like all the that goes on.
Yeah.
You always see Facebook put up like videos like of guys doing like going to the burnout pad in Assetto Corsa. It's insane.
Yeah, people do a lot of drifting. That game's very popular for drifting.
Yes,
I think it's still like there are games like Car X Drift and stuff. I've never played them myself, so I don't know if they're good or not. But I know there's a lot of people like into drifting. They just play Assetto Corsa.
Yes, Yep, that's basically my knowledge of the drifting community as well. That it's mainly done through there. There's not. I know there has been some standalone titles, but
Mm.
I've really only seen them in the teasing phase and not really in like a release version or people actually flocking to them to do it. But like you said, it just makes itself so appealing to the masses on any sim racing content that you might be interested in.
Yeah, definitely. And it's smart from them, you see, because they don't have to go and pay the money for licenses for all these cars because they just say the people that play our game are just going to make mods for them later anyway. So we'll just leave it out. We'll save money. It's very clever. I mean, I would try drifting myself, but I'll probably end up upside down half the time. So, we'll see what happens. Work in progress.
Well, yeah, that's the next, maybe a next goal or future goal down the track. But
Yeah.
All right. So you come into sim racing in 2021, and you were saying that was it just through watching people or other streamers on YouTube that got you interested in picking it up, and then how quickly did you move into actually thinking I want to start making my own content?
So I think it would have been like maybe 6 months after. I think that when I first started sim racing, I just wanted to race and get fast and race against other people and just have fun like that. And then I kind of started. It's always been like that. I like to kind of share my passion with people,
Yep.
and that's where I decided to kind of gravitate towards streaming. I think that the first kind of time I saw someone do like that whole immersive setup, I think it was Boosted Media.
Yep.
That setup was really cool, but like I think as I watched that footage, there was because Boosted Media uses very big screens. Like we're talking, I believe it's 65-inch,
Oh my
365-inch screens, which are huge, absolutely huge. And I think that it felt like something like a Formula One car. It's perfect, like an open wheel. It's perfect because the screens encompass you. You have a big, real estate of screen to take up with the environment because that's what you see most of when you're in an open wheel car. You see the environment. You see the track in front of you, the sky, because you don't have it. It's not a tin top car. You don't have something on top of you. But then when I started, I saw another channel called Race Beyond Matter, and he made it look like you were in the car like perfectly, like everything was sized, like it just looked so real, and everything was to perspective. And when I saw that he was just using like a triple screen setup, I thought like this is actually quite doable. Like this isn't something that's like out of my reach here. So I just bought a triple screen setup. I started in VR when I started on PC. I think that even to this day, VR is probably the best way you can get an immersive experience in sim racing. The only problem is that like it comes with its compromises. Like one, even with like the latest kind of graphics card or in your computer, it's still hard to run VR. Like you can't run it to that visual fidelity that you might like. There's also the comfort. Like for me, the issue I had was after maybe half an hour, face was getting really hot, like just very sweaty. I had issues where the lenses would fog a lot, and it was the most bizarre thing because it was always when I put the headset on for the first time. So it's almost like there was like I don't know hot air inside my eyelids or something. So I used to have this thing where I would pull my eyelid and like flap it to like get the hot air out before I put the headset on. I just figured that it would help like not fog the screen up as much. But then I found myself getting a lot of eye fatigue. Like I was like blinking heavily, kind of thing. Like if you're tired and you start blinking a lot, that was happening like all the time. And that's when I was like, yeah, I'm kind of scared now. I don't want to use VR anymore because I don't want to have to wear glasses.
Yeah. I'm. Here's an interesting fact. Like, I've been around iRacing heavily for about 6 years, and then before that, I was in my project cars and the F1 games and all that. Never in that time have I ever considered myself to be a VR person because I get dizzy very easily, and B, I'm pretty sweaty, and C, I actually have people. Not many people would know this, but even people when I go, like I have my own sim racing team. People in my team wouldn't know this, but I'm only in my mid-30s now. But when I was in my mid-20s, I got cataracts in both my eyes, And
Okay.
so I had to have what they call like the natural protein and stuff sucked out of your eyes, and then they put like fake lenses in there, and they're set up for distance. So normally when I sit at a computer, I have to wear glasses because my vision is pretty much from 1 meter outwards, and anything within a meter is just blurry to me. So my eyes, when you just talked about how you had eye fatigue and blinking, that would be my scenario. That's my reality if I ever wanted to put VR on. So I've never ever contemplated buying it, even though I acknowledge that it could go that whole next level for immersion in sim racing.
Yeah, it is another like just being able to look around the cockpit of the car. It's unreal. Like I loved it, but I didn't like the compromise. It just you have to turn graphics down, and then when you have to turn your graphics down too much, then it starts to actually make you feel sick because things don't look right, and it gets like confusing because your eyes think that they're looking at the real world because you're not looking at a screen essentially. Um, so that's when I ended up going with triple screens, and then just slowly over time, I think I remember I was streaming just like I said, like what most other people would be, with the image of the middle monitor on the stream with the webcam, just a very simple setup. But then I just started. One day I was like, I'm just going to chuck this GoPro on and just see how it goes, and people were like I had already built up a small viewership at that point because I'd been streaming for about like maybe 2 months. So I was getting about maybe, I'd say 30 viewers per stream. And then I said to them, I was like, guys, next year I'm just going to try something and you just let me know what you think about it. So I slapped the GoPro on my head and it was just sitting in front of the triple screens. I didn't have any of that, none of the nets or anything like that.
Yeah.
And they loved it. They were like, that looks really good. Like we feel like we're in the car almost. Like it's really cool. So I thought, you know what, if they like it, because they were telling me like we like this more than what you were doing before. Like just it is better completely. There's nothing. Yeah. So I just thought, I'll just keep doing it and see how it goes. And I would say maybe 2 years later. Sorry, 2 years. Sorry, maybe a month to 2 months later, it had just exploded. Like it'd gone from 30 average viewers to like 70 to 80 or something like that.
Yep.
And that's when I just started. I told the guys I'm going to take a break for a month. I'm not actually taking a break though. I'm using it to build a new rig, and that's when I was like, "Yep, I'm going to build this new rig." Went and bought all the parts I needed, bought the new monitor stand, and just spent a month building what you see today.
Yep.
And then I started just doing it like that, and then it was kind of just like I thought at the time it had reached the peak of what it could look like.
Yeah.
I was still doing ACC at that point, but I was starting to do iRacing. ACC was good, but then once I did iRacing, that's what really kind of, I would say it's because maybe viewers that like iRacing, they're more into the realism thing than ACC. Like I feel like a lot of people that play ACC, like it is a more obtainable sim compared to iRacing. Yes. So it attracts a lot more younger people. Like it attracts just a broader range of people because it's just more affordable and easier to get into because the GT3 cars are quite easy to drive compared to other cars, as you probably would know.
Yeah.
Because you've got all those kind of electronics backing you up, like the really invasive TC and the really invasive ABS. Yeah, it is really invasive. It's good though. It allows anyone to drive reasonably quick. But once I moved to iRacing, I feel like maybe the viewers were a bit older and they kind of appreciated the effort that had gone into that view, that POV maybe.
I was just going to say, I wonder if that's got a bit to do with iRacing being solely from the cockpit view, where those other titles you're still finding a lot of people playing it in chase cam, in
definitely
bonnet cam. Those other camera angles that they may not relate to.
Yeah, definitely. That could be another factor. Definitely, yeah. And it went from there, and then I'd say like maybe after about a month of streaming iRacing, viewership went up even more to like an average of at least 100 viewers per stream, and then shortly after we took a break, shortly before, we took a break. It was a few months ago now. I think some of the PEL races, when I was live streaming them, We were hitting about 200 viewers a stream. It was just going higher and higher. And I think it was just the fact that people in iRacing kind of appreciate the effort that had gone into that view a lot more than in other sims, maybe, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Probably got hitting the nail on the head there. All right, well let's break that up into two sections. And like one thing of interest is to me is, so you talking about like building that initial following for your streaming channels. Do you recall, like, was there a particular moment or video, or was it the introduction of the head-mounted GoPro that you feel like was your success, or was it more like sort of organic with being regular with when you did your streams? Was there any sort of like hints there? Because I mean, like, people listening in might often consider, oh, geez, I wouldn't mind streaming one day. But like, yeah, and you think about and certainly yourself now where you are now, and you've come a long way, but also you're not that far removed from the beginning either. So you've probably got some really good insights as to, how you built that initial following, whether it be on YouTube or talk a little bit about also, what your main platforms are.
I would say, well, now that you mentioned that, I would say one of the things that helped us grow is the fact that we push content out onto all platforms. That's what really helped us, because what I did was, at the end of the day, you've got two kinds of content. You've got your short form content, which is, Instagram, YouTube Shorts, or Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, and TikTok, right? Mm-hmm. And whatever other ones there are out there. I don't know. There's too many these days. Then you've got your long form content, which is your YouTube videos, mm-hmm. and obviously your live streams. What really helped was using the short form content to grab more viewership and entice them to watch the long form content, whether it be YouTube videos or live streams. And I think that's how we managed to, because I have not made, even to this day, I've not made a viral video. There are some, doesn't matter what genre you like, what you do on YouTube or Twitch or whatever. Sometimes people make something viral and it's just like they explode just like that. Then there's other people who just do it by consistency. And I would say that we've never made a viral video, and we've always done it through consistency. For anyone wanting to get into live streaming, I would say the first thing you need to do, like, you need passion for what you're doing. If you don't, like, I mean, like I told you before, I came from no motorsport background. But then once I started doing, Gran Turismo and racing with other people and got into sim racing, I just fell in love with the actual process of, being in a race, fighting with someone on the track, winning a race, like all those feelings. It's like infectious for me. And then that's where the passion comes from. It doesn't matter if I'm winning or losing or whatever. It doesn't matter. As long as I'm doing sim racing, I'm happy. And I think viewers can really connect with that. Like, they'll know if you enjoy what you're doing or not. Because if you're not enjoying what you're doing, one, you won't be doing it well. Two, you won't be very engaging while you're doing it. And they'll see that kind of blandness there, and that turns them off, and it makes them not want to, come and watch you again. And I think that the way we grew was just by being passionate about what we do, stream after stream, being professional about it. Like, we don't, like, when I'm in a stream, I don't get up and go to the toilet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I'm doing if it's an endurance race and I'm not driving, like I'm sitting waiting to drive, then yes, I might go to the bathroom. But when you're doing a live stream, if you're doing it for 4 hours, you need to be professional about it. Don't treat it like a job, but be professional. Where these people, they're here to watch you, so don't go and leave your chair. If it's 4 hours, just stay. I mean, obviously, emergencies happen and you got to go to the bathroom. But just be consistent and be professional with your attitude toward doing it. But the most important thing is just be passionate. If you're not into sim racing, like if you kind of just like try ACC and you think, oh, I might stream it because people are watching it, you're not going to succeed. It's not going to happen because people are going to know that. So I think, what helped us grow the way we did was, one, yes, being passionate about it, being consistent, treating it, I wouldn't say treat it like a job, but just, take it seriously. Like, don't take it as, oh, I'm just sitting in my rig, I'm just gonna play some sim racing. No, you are. It's a show, basically.
Yeah.
You know, these are your viewers. They are here to watch you. The fact that they are taking time out of their busy day to watch you, you should be grateful for as the content creator. So take that time seriously. Don't waste their time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Doing that, and then the last bit is utilizing as many platforms as you can, and not just focusing on one, because like there are people out there who they don't watch Twitch, they don't watch YouTube, and they don't care about them, but they love to sit on their phone and scroll through Instagram reels one after the other. If you don't make Instagram reels, they'll never know who you are, you know? So it's very easy to stream your content or make videos and then take little snippets and put them on your short form contents like TikTok, Instagram, YouTube Shorts. It all helps. It's all about, I've always been the kind of person who I don't really take risks, so I'm always a kind of safe, slow gains kind of person.
Yep.
You know, slow, gradual progress. And I think that's how we got to where we are today, just through slow, gradual process.
I think one of the big things, and I see it even like just preparing for tonight, for example, I might spend some time scrolling through some videos. Your comment sections, even just on like a YouTube video, they're always strong. Like there seems like there is and it's one thing that I've wanted, like, I don't just say doing what I do here with the podcast and a bit of the blog style stuff. I haven't done a whole lot of engagement with people. Like I try whenever someone comments on a post or whatever that I try and respond to them and whatever, but I haven't sort of promoted that side of it very much. But your community, there seems like there's a strong community that just turn up for your videos every single time.
And you know what? It's everything. The community is everything, mate, for me. Like it's great. It's great. It's great, you know, making videos and having people say like, oh, you know, that was really cool and everything. But the friends that I've made in this hobby now, that's like the most important thing for me. Yeah. I think that I could stop all of this tomorrow and still be happy because I've made so many friends out of this. And I think that if you value the community, it will only grow. And at the end of the day, you know, your content is popular because these people are putting value in it, you know, so you need to nurture that, because if they feel like they're part of something, well, they are part of something, sorry. But yeah, when they feel like they're part of something, it makes them want to turn up again and again, because what you'll notice in like Twitch streams and stuff is these viewers will start to see each other often, and then they'll start to talk to each other while they're watching you. So now it's no longer like your viewers are talking to you and you're replying to them. It ends up with like, sometimes I'll be like driving and there'll be two viewers in each other in the chat, like just talking to each other about random stuff like that happened on the weekend. And it's really good to see that, because you can see that that's the community there. It's no longer viewer creator. It's all the viewers with the creator making one big family kind of thing.
That's such a cool thing. And look, for me, I'm just as happy talking about the hobby as I am in the hobby, and like, or doing the sim racing. And I find it just having these conversations just as engaging as being in a race, and sometimes just easier to have, especially when, you know, time's so limited with practice and stuff. And it was definitely something that come across to me was like, wow, there's a lot of people commenting, in like, you know, looking through, you know, your YouTube numbers are, you know, 3,500 subscribers, and your Instagram's 3,500 followers, and so you're building up that reputation now, and you just see that you're getting a lot of comments for that size of following as well. So I'm like, it's one thing to have a viral video. The viral video doesn't give you a community.
No, never does.
So that's something that you've sort of just organically got for yourself through, you know, I would love to know the secret sauce method of what you know, what you've done, but obviously being,
you know, well, no, that's the thing, mate. There is no secret. Like, I've always been the kind of person, I share everything, you know. Like when I built the rig, I didn't hide things from people. They asked me, how did you do it? You know, what did you do? I showed them, because at the end of the day, that's what it's about. Yeah, people admire your work enough that they want to copy it. That's a good thing. You should help them do that. The main thing is every comment I reply to, every single comment, because it's so easy if you think about it. Like I always look at everything like as if I was a viewer. The thing with me is I don't really watch Twitch streams. Like I never watch Twitch streams. Like it's not that I don't want to, it's just I don't have time.
Yeah.
I do. Yeah, but I always think about like if I was a viewer, would I like this? That's the thing. And I know that as a viewer, like if I watch a video, I can't be bothered leaving a comment and saying, "Hey, thank you." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Half the time. So because and a lot of people are like that. And when they make the effort to not just watch a video, but then actually comment and say like, "Hey, I really like that," or someone in your Twitch chat who is like constantly talking and constantly driving engagement and communication in the chat, you have to appreciate that because they don't have to do that. They're doing it because they like you and what you do. And that makes them happy enough to be able to share more about themselves with the other people, not just with you, but with the other people around them in chat or in the comment section. And you need to nurture that. So that's why I always, even if it's a negative comment, I will always reply to it and just put something positive into it because they've made the effort, to say, hey, thanks, or to say whatever they wanted to say when they didn't have to.
Yeah.
They could have just scrolled over to the next video or the next,
And it's like, for every person that does comment, there could have been 15 people thinking about commenting, but then thought, I probably won't get a response. But then the next time they load that screen up and they see you responding, well, when they feel like commenting next time, they're going to do it, aren't they? So it's like...
they feel valued. They feel valued. Exactly right.
Yeah, so that's just even just my own perspective from watching. Like, I've never streamed before, but like sometimes I think, I like that video, I enjoyed that video, but I'm not a regular here or whatever, I won't comment. Like, there's obviously quite clearly a chat going on with others. But anyway, but you see that thing and you think, I know, I will comment now and, but get a reasonable response or whatever. But it's just interesting how that all starts out. And, it is a process, isn't it? Trying to build that community.
Yeah.
And it's not something that happens easily. But okay, so you've, over the evolution of the last couple of years, talk about who sits behind Alex K Racing now. So you've obviously got yourself. Are you still solely responsible for producing a lot of the content? Have you got people assisting you in that?
So look, on the content side, it's usually all me in terms of making the videos.
Yep.
When it comes to the live stream, it's more the back end stuff that I have a lot of help. So with our live stream, obviously we've got our moderators. So I've got a management team of 4 people.
Okay.
Sorry, 3 people. 3 people. Sorry, that's bad. Don't tell them I said 4 because I'll get mad at me. Yeah. So we've got Hugo, who obviously everyone knows him if they follow our videos, because I don't know how he became the most known one. Because I think it's because me and him just end up crashing into each other all the time. So everyone just like, oh yeah, Hugo killed Alex again. So
I remember.
Everyone just knows.
Sorry to cut you off. I remember the short or whatever from the. I think it was the first round of the Premier League.
He killed me. Yeah,
at Catalunya.
That's exactly what he did.
You just screamed out, "Hugo's just punted! I've just punted me."
Yeah.
So is Hugo a moderator, or is Hugo more than a moderator, and he's just wiped you out on one of your races?
Yeah, no. So yeah, look, Hugo's main thing is that he's just a giant pain in my ass. I'm just going to be honest with you. He's always there. But no, so he is one of the moderators in our stream. But the main role of the management team. So we've got the 4. We've got the 3. Sorry, we've got Hugo, we've got Tyson, and we've got Ethan. Right.
Yeah.
Their main thing is more managing the Discord. So our Discord server, it got to a point where it was just I couldn't really do it myself anymore because it was just, I think we're sitting at nearly 1,200 members now, I think, on the Discord.
Yeah.
And they're all in there for various reasons. Some are actively part of the community. Some they just use it for the YouTube or Twitch notifications when we're live or when there's a new video, or like we have a lot of resources in our Discord, like like dashboards and overlays that people can download for free off there.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's all there. Like because I mean, as you know from my content, I'm always trying to match the car that's being used. So that involves using a lot of dashboards that mimic the actual one from real life, like what it uses. So there's a large library in there. People often join just for that, so they can search up dashboards and download what they want. But it's gotten too much. It got to the point where it was just too much, and they will often just manage what happens in there. Just make sure we don't really have any troublemakers. We've been pretty lucky in that sense.
Yep.
But they'll just make sure if there's any inappropriate messages or someone's being a goose, then they'll sort them out. But the other problem is also because our community, it's not really like focused on a region or a country. It's pretty global.
Mm-hmm.
Like we have people from all parts of the world in that community. It's just hard. Like I have to sleep, at some point. So that's where like people like Ethan come in. So Ethan's actually from South Africa. So he will manage stuff and look after the Discord while like I'm asleep or the other guys are asleep. So when it comes to that stuff, like they manage that. They manage the streams, like they moderate the streams.
Yeah.
And they also help me, like they keep an eye out for stuff that's coming out. They show me stuff like, oh, hey, you might like this. Like I didn't know that. For example, ACC is getting the Nordschleife track next week.
Yeah.
And then Tyson, sent it to me a while ago, but I didn't know it was coming out. He sent me, he goes, hey, look, this is coming out now. Okay, sweet. That's another video there.
Yeah.
So it is a team effort. I never treat it like I'm in charge. This is my Discord. I've always treated it like the four of us share it together.
Yep.
And I never make decisions without their we vote on it usually. If there's a decision that has to be made, I'll never make ones without them unless I'm like it needs to be made right now, and I know that it's like they would agree with this. So no, it's in terms of the content, making the content, like the actual act of making the content. Yes, that's all done in my room by me. But in terms of the overall community and the back end stuff, no, it's a team effort between those four people.
Okay, that's good to hear more about that side of things. And
yeah. Oh, and my wife. I have to say my wife, otherwise she'll kill me.
Yeah. Well, it's fair enough.
Yeah.
Like, there has to be some level of cooperation there for you to be able.
She lets me play sim racing, so that's.
She also probably just stands by and cringes while all the money gets spent on the rig, which might be the next topic. I think we're probably long overdue to get into. Like it sounds like you. Like just in the last half an hour or so listening to you talk, like there's so much more you could flesh out about how you've gone about building that following and that community. And you're obviously really switched on in that department, but we'll progress the chat because there's also a big second element here about what makes your channel so interesting. And that is just the insanely cool rig. Let's start with, you had initially a BMW GT3 rig set up. Is that still there? Have you got two now, or has it evolved into?
No, so it's actually the same cockpit, but all the parts are. When I designed it, I wanted all the parts to be interchangeable.
Okay.
Like I wanted to be able to take pieces off and switch them around. So when I first built it, I was driving the BMW GT3 in ACC a lot.
Yeah.
So I wanted to, and I felt like, I can, the BMW, like it's hard to find some replica wheels for a lot of cars, but luckily, like Fanatec obviously sells the BMW wheel.
Yep.
And I thought, I really like this car. The wheel's available. I think I can make it work with this. So the actual base of the cockpit, like the rig itself, is just a Track Racer TR80.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I've had that for the full 2 years now or whatever, and it's given me no issues.
Yep.
Then we've got the triple screens which surround the rig just like they would with any other triple screen setup. Maybe a little bit closer, I would say, than other people. Like it's basically the wheelbase is pressed up towards the screen, the bezel at the bottom of it.
Yeah.
It's very close. Then we've got the two little bits of the bezel kit that hide the bezels in between the three screens. So that's the base of the rig. Then what makes it immersive is all the extra things that have been added onto it. Like, for example, we've got the button boxes, we've got the nets for the GT3, And then obviously they can be taken off. And then if I want to drive the hypercars, we put the yellow restraints on. Then the other component we have are the wheels. I'm not going to say price because people are going to sit there and be like, this dude, what the hell is wrong with him? He's like, I'm not going to say price.
Yeah, no, you
I
don't
will
need
say
to.
it's not, you know what? I'll tell you now, if I was to put a price on it, like I'd say it is obtainable because you've got a aluminium profile rig with 3 screens. People have bought them all the time. That's a very common purchase.
That's your
right?
standard iRacer right there, about, isn't it?
That's
Like,
it.
Yeah.
Standard iRacer with the year-long subscription, and this is why iRacing's the best always. And then you, if you really want to do it in the smallest amount possible, you get a wheel, you get some nets, and you're actually pretty much good to go. Like it actually looks pretty good just with that. Obviously, what pumps up the cost a bit is the computer. That's because if you want to make the footage look good, then you need to obviously have the nice high visual fidelity. So you've got to have a good computer that can run the graphics quite high. At the moment now, I just bought a new one with a 4090 GPU in it. So it's a beast. Like I don't think you can't get better than it at the moment. It's pretty much all the best that you can get. But yeah, like it is obtainable. You can do it with a lesser computer. Like it is doable. Even with some DIY, like the nets, I bought custom made ones, but before that, I actually made my nets from like using webbing from Bunnings. So what makes it, what a lot of people don't realize is what makes the rig immersive is actually all the little bits and bobs. It's not the overall thing. That's actually, that's actually a very, the triple screen monitors with the profile is a very common thing for people who are serious or more or less serious about their sim racing. What else apart from that? All the other gadgets we've got. So we've got the two different button boxes. I've got one that I use for the hypercar, and then I've got 2 that I use on a diagonal piece of profile for the GT3 because it gives it like that slanted look.
Yes, I'm looking at that right now, and it's almost like it almost just gives the center console look to the, and that's what I think when you look at it from a viewer's point of view, you feel like it's wrapped, not just the screens wrapped around you, but the whole cockpit. Feels like it's wrapped around, and it would be difficult to get in and out of, but also exactly what you would expect and what you witness when you watch like a real live event with people trying to clamber in and out of the cars, what they have to deal with. And it just looks like the way that those button boxes are set up there on the diagonal down, it just all makes it look like a proper full dash and center console.
I'll tell you what, I don't know how some of these older race car drivers getting out of that car. I mean, I'm only how old am I now? 32. Yeah, I think I'm 32 or I think I'm 32. Yeah. I can't even remember my age these days, mate. It's how bad it's getting. I think I'm older.
Yeah.
Mate, my knees, they hurt getting in. It's just bad, mate. It's so bad, but yeah, you can't help what you love, can you?
No, and you never contemplate the pain too much until after you're out of it. Probably, yeah. Nah.
But I mean, apart from that, like, I've got different wheels. I think that's what's made the hobby the most expensive for me is actually the wheels.
Yeah.
It is a bit of an addiction. I'm not going to lie, but so what have we got at the moment? We've got the hypercar wheel from Picorni Engineering. We've got the BMW replica rim, the M4 GT3. We've got the Lamborghini / Audi replica because they use the same wheel in that GT3 car, obviously.
Yep.
Just with a different label.
I've bought that one off before in the past.
They're actually, you can get quite cheap ones too, like quite cheap versions of it. It's fairly common, that Lamborghini / Audi rim.
Yep.
We've got the Rexing Formula One rim, which admittedly I don't really use anymore. I think it was the first like proper expensive wheel I bought. And then I just found that I didn't really have a use for it after I started doing a lot of GT3 driving. And then we've got our round wheel, which I just use for whatever, like road car or like maybe Porsche Cup car, because the older ones, they used to have a round rim. I always try and match the car with the wheel as close as I can. And then we've got the McLaren rim, which was the first one I started, the Fanatec one.
Yep.
Probably I'd say that's probably one of the best bang for buck wheels you can buy, to be honest with you. It's quite good, that one. It's very popular. Yeah.
I've got a funny story myself. Like I,
Mm.
for the amount of time that I've been around, since I, we mentioned before, I started with the T300. I then moved into the Fanatec system myself.
Mm.
I've owned that McLaren rim on 3 separate occasions. I'm really ashamed to say. Like, it's just,
Like you bought 3?
so I've owned it and sold it, then owned it again, then sold it, and then owned it again. So it's because it makes, there's nothing about what I do, and certainly my teammates would back this up. Nothing I do and decisions I make with sim racing or sim racing hardware make any sense whatsoever. If you wanted to just see the most expensive way to go about it, you would do what I do. And that's just I'm too just, I want to be into sim racing a lot more, and I think I could be more, but just with work or whatever else, life commitments, it never. And so I end up buying these things, and then I think to myself, I'm not getting enough use out of it. I've got too much money, especially through the COVID boom when um, sim racing equipment becomes so hard to get. I'm like, oh, like I'm just sitting on all this money and I'm not getting the use out of it. Maybe if I just sell this, I'll downgrade to the, in just the way my mind works, and I shift money, and it's just
talk about first world problems there, mate.
Yeah, I know.
There's just too much money. What do we do?
I think but I also just deep down, I also just want to know about where I've never been one to stand still. So I'm wanting to try all these different rims, and I don't have like I've never been one that's got like a 5 rim collection. I'm always selling, buying, so that I'm not.
Yeah, okay.
And so I've gotten to try a lot of different rims that way, and it's cost me a little bit extra money definitely doing it. But it's just funny, that rim I've owned on 3 separate occasions, 2 V1s and then the V2 version.
It's actually a really solid wheel though, isn't it? Like it's really good.
And I think coming through that era at that particular time, I think it's about, correct me if I'm wrong, it's a 300mm rim.
Yes, correct.
It is. It offered the perfect rim for if someone that was doing both the V8 supercar and GT3 racing. There wasn't a whole lot of
formula.
Yeah, well, usually at that point in time, you either had the round 300, 315mm rims, or you had the 280 formula style rims. And then the McLaren rim occupied that middle ground where you could do it for both cars, and that's why I liked it.
Very versatile product.
Yes, yeah. So, good one there. And just recently, or I say recently, maybe in the last 6 months or so, you've then introduced the LMP version of the rig. So it's obviously the same rig. You've just made these parts interchangeable and obviously got that crazy good looking rim to go along with it.
Yeah, and then destroyed my bank account in the process. It's been a good time. Mate, I did not. You know what? I say that because I did not expect these things to be that expensive to make. I haven't really seen anyone else do it. There is one that someone showed me, a channel called Sense of Speed, and he's done it with wood, and he's wrapped them in like a black Alcantara. And I remember when I first was kind of deciding how I was going to build it, I was thinking that, and I just wish I had sometimes because it would have been so much cheaper to do it that way. But it started off like I wanted to use first because in the real world they're made out of a foam called Conform.
Okay.
Right? The product's called Conform. And it's obviously the Conform is then upholstered in whatever that material is on the outside to make it look sleek and shiny.
Yep.
Obviously, Conform is too expensive because it's motorsport grade. But I thought if I can find a good density foam, then maybe I can do this. And then I was kind of thinking but then how do we? I went to a couple foam factories and they were like, yeah, we can do it. We can kind of cut the curve for you, but it's going to be a bit hard because it's foam. It's not like it's very easily shaped.
Yep.
So I was looking at thinking, this would be okay, but I wanted to do something no one had done before. I wanted to do it properly, and then I was talking to the guys. I was thinking, I'm about to pull the trigger on the foam to do this thing, but I just feel like it could be done better. I just don't know how.
Yeah.
And then that's when one of my friends, he suggested, like, why don't you try 3D printing? And I thought, like, that sounds like it would be very heavy and very expensive. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I just didn't really take it serious at the time. But then when I was looking at it later on, I was thinking that this might be the only option. So I ended up just looking at some companies here in Melbourne, trying to find if there was someone that could do it. And they were all like, that is a very cool project, but I don't think we can do this. Like they just, the answer was just no, we would love to, but no, we can't. And then I just found a guy, his name's David Mullins. He's here in Victoria. And he was actually like, yeah, I can do it. Like he was actually really keen to do it. And he was really helpful with the process. Like I went to his house a couple of times and he brought CAD up on for me. And we were able to shape it exactly how he wanted. And I wanted to make it close to what the Porsche LMP or LMPH, whatever you want to call it, the hypercar looks like. But not exactly, because then, when we drive other ones, it's not too much of a distinct kind of difference.
One make only type thing, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. There's got to be a bit of versatility there. So that's when we went with the original, the yellow shape. It did end up costing a lot. Off the top of my head, from what I remember, I think to have them printed, it was, well, the design process plus the printing was 1,800 Australian.
Yeah.
And then to have them wrapped, so obviously they get printed in black.
Yeah.
I can't remember the compound that he used for that one, but it comes out black colored. It had to be like kind of printed in multiple parts, like big blocks, and then plastic welded together to make the big pieces. And then I had them wrapped at That's a Wrap vinyl, and that was about, from the top of my head, 300 or 350. So all up, the project ended up costing me about a bit over 2,000 just for the restraints. So It was one of those things where I was kind of like, halfway through the process, I was like instant regret. Like what I was talking to you about earlier on, you sort of sit there and think, oh, this would be cool if I tried this. And then you get halfway there and you're like, well, this is bad now, but I can't stop, so I have to finish it.
Yeah.
That's literally what happened. What happened. And then obviously the wheel came into it. Yeah. Like it's just, you regret, and then you're like, nah, but I'm too far to go. Like I can't give up now. We have to do this.
Anytime that I look at a wheel these days and I don't know what it is, I'm thinking to myself, that's got to be expensive.
Basically.
It's like, like I'm pretty much all over like a lot of your your base rims that would come with a lot of manufacturers that you would expect from SimMagic, Fanatec, whatever. And then I look at that and I'm like, yeah, that's a replica. That it's probably come in one of those Rhino army wear cases or whatever shipped from.
Yeah. You know what? It's good though. I love that it's become a lot more accessible now.
Yeah.
One thing that I don't think will ever change is a lot of these companies, like the wheels that I buy from, like replicas, they will always be expensive, I think.
Yes.
Because they're such a niche. And they know it's a niche, so they know that they can charge and people will pay.
Well, I just love that they go, you know what? We could make a 1-to-1 replica. It could cost us whatever it's going to cost us, but there's going to be people out there that will pay for that. Like, and there is, because they want, immersion.
His name's Alex K.
Yeah. There's this guy we need to target in Australia.
This idiot, he'll buy anything that's sim racing related. Basically. Yeah. No, but it's good. I like the fact that with, Fanatec, SimMagic, Moza, you got Camus now trying to get their foot in the door too.
Yep.
Obviously, you got SimiCube, which is higher up on the end. But I love that these main ones like Fanatec, Moza, SimMagic, they're so accessible now for everyone, especially people with a lower budget. Because one thing you would know is that this hobby is so expensive. And we're very lucky to be doing it. Because think about how much money you need to spend to even just get your foot in the door. Like people that even buy a Logitech wheel, which like these days I would never recommend buying a Logitech wheel like brand new. Like I'd always recommend buying it secondhand. But even a brand new Logitech, which is like the lowest of the low, more or less, when it comes to sim racing equipment, that is like, isn't it like 500 something Australian dollars? That's not cheap.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's close. Yeah, it goes on special a fair bit, but it's usually around the $500 mark, I think. And even that, like, who's going to be able to afford that most of the time? Especially the state that our economy is in now. Especially, you know, a lot of kids want to get into sim racing. How are they going to do it? You know, it's $500 something is a lot of money for a kid these days. Still.
Yeah, and I know you've done some work with Camus yourself, and we've talked a bit in the background, but that they're now offering that price point for even sort of, you know, older school based kids or people starting out on apprenticeships or whatever, and they're getting a bit of direct drive in at that level, which is certainly, like, I think on the last podcast I was talking about it. I going the T300 route 2 pedal set when I started out, it was around about that $600 mark. I don't know if that's where it's at now. Like it's probably
it still is. That's about. I think that's what I paid. I think I paid 600 something for it.
Yep.
Yeah, for the Thrustmaster,
which is, you know, I know what I would rather go,
not cheap.
Yeah, no, that's right.
Yeah.
And for but back then you had to go. Geez, I think the DD1 wasn't even out yet from Fanatec, and your only option for direct drive is you'd go through Brett at HRS, who
Simucube?
import Simucube from overseas.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yep. So you'd had to come get the Simucube, pay the import tax, and that was your only means of getting a direct drive in Australia. And that was 6 years ago, or 6 or 7 years ago. So it's come a long way in terms of accessibility and what people can get their hands on. And the big word now is like ecosystem. You can buy one product and not be locked into a wheel.
Yeah, that's not the way to go anymore. I feel. I think it's the good thing about, like, there's nothing wrong with an ecosystem, but don't lock people into it.
Yeah,
I think that's the way to go. Like, ecosystem's great for people who like don't really want to like think about, I want this wheel from here, I want these pedals from here. It's good because, like, here's our range, you've got your wheel, your wheelbase, your pedals, and you're good to go. It makes it a lot more enticing. I just don't like it when like people are locked into an ecosystem, because I mean, even for my Fanatec, most of my wheels have like a third party emulator on them, because you can't do it with Fanatec unless you buy the hub, but they charge a ridiculous amount of money for their hub. Fanatec.
Yep.
It's not, and it's way too long, like thick. The third party one that I buy is from Sim Racing Machine, which is a UK based company.
Yep.
And I think it's like half the thickness, does the exact same job, but half the thickness of the Fanatec one. So you can't really complain with that.
Yeah, right. Okay. I didn't know that was out there as an option, but see, I've moved.
Yeah,
I used to have the DD one, and I've moved on. I've got Sim Magic gear now, so personally myself.
Okay.
And you know, they've got the NRG quick. I think it's NRG quick release, so it's actually, you can actually buy that quick release from some auto places, not just it's not just a sim racing one.
Don't get me started about the Fanatec pins. Oh God, I'm waiting for it to happen, man. I'm waiting for one of these to break one day. It's gonna happen.
I was always paranoid about that too, because the longer it went on, the more clumsier I got. Or I also found it was getting tight. Like, I was finding it harder to get it off.
Yeah.
But all right. Well, I guess talking about your channel and your streaming, I've got one more thing, and then I've got an interesting topic that I'm going to spring on you a little bit by surprise at the end. But moving forward now, so we've got to talk a little bit about. So you're in this nice period where you've got, like I mentioned, I'm not sure what your TikTok numbers are, but you've got 3,500 subscribers and stuff. But you would probably be at the time where there's probably more demand on you to produce content, but you're also still working full time as well, aren't you? So how do you go about balancing your content production and actually maintaining your job, which I believe is quite a demanding role, is it not?
You don't sleep.
Yeah.
You just don't sleep, mate. Like I've said this before, the whole working full time has always been the bane of this this content creation journey. I mean, to give you a bit more of a backstory as well, like, it's not just work; it's the fact that I also have both my elderly parents who I need to look after as well.
Wow.
On a weekly basis.
Yep.
So I have to manage my job, which is just like your standard whatever it is, 80 hours a fortnight or whatever, 40 something hours a week. Then I have to manage often going to my parents' house, like looking after them. And then I have to manage my own family, and then there's content creation at the end of it. So that, I think, my biggest enemy through this entire journey has been time. I feel like there are not enough hours in the day to just get stuff done. I wish I could have just one day every week where I could just get stuff done, as in that's not the weekend. But obviously that's not on the cards for a while. But it is, that's the hardest thing, mate. The hardest challenge, I'll say, is just getting the time to do it. Like, obviously I was saying that, I said earlier, before we took a break from streaming, because around off the top of my head, I can't remember when we stopped. I'm going to say November last year. I had to stop streaming because I just couldn't do it. I couldn't manage like streaming, YouTube, work, family. It was just too much. Like, I was just not sleeping enough. It was a mess, mate. It was an absolute nightmare.
Yep.
I was getting stressed all the time. I wasn't performing well during my live streams. Like, usually there were two factors there. Like, one, it was the fact that when I started iRacing, I was like, racing, because obviously your iRating's lower, so you race against slower people,
Yep.
so you get better results. But then I got to the point where I think at one point I got to 2.6k iRating.
Mm-hmm.
I was started to just race against people who like race a lot and they get a lot of time to practice, and I was not able to keep up, and it got really hard where I was trying to get a video out every week, but I just like a YouTube video out every week.
Yep.
Which just I couldn't do it because, again, real life kept getting in the way, and then I wasn't able to practice the track for the week, because obviously the problem with iRacing is just there's so many tracks, and if you haven't been playing for a long time, a lot of the time you're learning these tracks for the first time. Like, I never knew what the hell Aragon was when it came out, and I wish I never knew what it was, because I hate that place.
It's not the Lord of the Rings
mate,
character.
Mate, it's not. It's just a nightmare. That's what it is. A lot of these new tracks, like when it was Monza, if you remember in PEL, I did really well because I've done Monza a million times, as has everyone. That's one of the tracks that you learn when you first start sim racing. So it was just easy for me to be fast there. So I found I was really struggling to keep up with the track list every week on iRacing. I was getting to crashes a lot. I wasn't on the pace, and then viewership started to drop. And I was like, you know what? I have to make a choice right now. It's either YouTube or Twitch. And it was also, this year, my wife and I are like planning to have a child, or trying for a child, right? And I was sitting there thinking, like, I have no idea how I'm going to do Twitch this year. This is obviously me thinking last year, thinking about this year.
Yep.
I was sitting there thinking, I could keep doing Twitch, and then when it gets to next year, I'm just going to have to stop. It's done, because I'm not going to be able to manage raising a child now, on top of looking after my parents, on top of my full-time job. I'm not going to be able to do Twitch anymore, and then the brand will just die. And that's when I made the transition over, like, more to YouTube. Like, I told the guys, like, I'm really sorry, but I can't do Twitch right now because I just don't have the time to do it properly.
Yep.
And YouTube really helped because it's a lot more flexible. And I would say that if you are someone with a lot of responsibility and you're wanting to get into content creation, I would probably recommend YouTube, because it's just a lot more flexible with the way it is, because you don't need to sit in your computer, or at your computer, sorry, for 4 hours doing a live stream. You're not stuck there.
Yeah.
You can work on a video throughout a week or a fortnight or whatever time frame you want. You can do an hour today, an hour tomorrow. It's very flexible. It's really good for people that have kids. I'd say YouTube. It's probably better. And I was a little bit frustrated with Twitch too, because we had more than doubled the requirements in viewership to become a Twitch partner. And we had we had more than doubled the requirements for I'd say 4 months, something like that. And in those 4 months, I applied for partner 3 times and they knocked me back every time. And I just couldn't understand it. I was like, I've set the requirements, what's the problem here? But
Yeah.
I think it's just something that Twitch does as well. Sometimes they make it hard because they want to see if someone really wants it as well. Then what I found with YouTube was I think when we started doing YouTube properly, I got YouTube partner in I think it was a month and a half, something like that. It was really quick, and that just helped bring a bit more income because we started bringing money from videos, and it was just easier because if you make a good YouTube video, it'll keep getting views and keep generating income for you for years on end. Like I remember I made like a guide on like Assetto Corsa settings. At the time, I think I made it 3 months ago now or something like that. Can't remember off the top of my head, 4 months ago maybe. At the time, it only had like 1,000 views, but now 4 months later or 5 months later, it has 30,000 views.
Yeah.
So this whole time, it's been generating income, like a constant stream of income. So I think for me, YouTube really saved it because now the brand it's safe. Because if anything ever happens, because now obviously we're starting our live streams again this week because I made the time. I sat down with my wife. I was like, what can we do to just make sure that this works from now on? And we made the changes. I talked with the guys, and we can do live stream again now. I'm really happy about that. But now, if anything ever goes wrong in the future, I can't do live streaming. It's fine because we have YouTube to fall back on now.
Yeah, you got that fallback point.
So So we and that's not to say that YouTube is getting neglected. It's still getting content as well. And the good thing is that if you have really good races during your live stream, you can cut them and make them a video and put them as a YouTube video, and people really like that. So it's kind of like you live stream and you get free content from your live stream to put on YouTube, and it's just like a very sustainable way of giving people that content, because the way it was going, mate, I couldn't keep it up. It was just it was starting to affect mental health, like stress wise. Like I've always been the kind of person that would just suck it up, and just like you probably relate. When we were raised, it was a lot harder. Like mental health wasn't really looked at as a serious thing back then. It was like toughen up, which I don't agree with.
You had to be really, really, really struggling to be considered someone that actually was suffering from mental health issues.
Yeah, exactly. It was kind of shrugged off as like, oh, you'll get over it, you'll deal with it, kind of thing, which wasn't good. I think it's really good that it's come so far where mental health is treated quite seriously now, because it is. It's very easily to become damaged mentally, probably easier than it is physically sometimes, and that's when I was like, obviously, later in my later years now, I've become a lot more aware of mental health, and the state that I was in, like 4 months ago, I was like, nah, this is not sustainable. Yep. I'm going to end up quitting completely if I keep this up. Like that's why we had to stop streaming. The only downside is that I've sometimes, I guess, in some ways lost that connection with the community, because like, when we live stream it, I'm racing, I'm paying attention, but I'm always like cracking jokes with viewers and, talking a lot. And I really enjoy that aspect. Whereas in a YouTube video, it's kind of like I'm talking at the camera or I'm talking at the computer, and these people are listening to what I'm saying, a week after I've said it, kind of thing. So that connection, that immediate connection is not there. And I guess it has kind of impacted in some ways, like, definitely, I think that the Twitch content, as in like, like the VODs, like with talking, they really help the Instagram and TikTok blow up, because people like short form content with a lot of talking in it because it's engaging.
Yep.
Compared to YouTube, where there's not as much talking, or it's not kind of like live reaction talking, it doesn't get as many hits or likes. So definitely, since doing mainly YouTube, Instagram and TikTok have dropped. But that's why I'm happy that I'm doing Twitch again, because I can have that connection with our viewers, that immediate connection, which I miss, because I really like doing. I really love live streaming. It's such a fun thing to do with viewers.
Yeah, and you I wouldn't know it to the scale that you do, but you a lot of those uh, pressures or mental health issues usually always just stems from the expectation that you put on yourself. And when you get those
Yeah.
opportunities to talk to people, and you think they just get it and they understand it, and or maybe I don't need to be on the seventh day every single time that I've got a new video out,
absolutely.
and there is, and yeah, you hear people talk about what it might mean to be successful. You need regular content, you need this or whatever. But when you get that bit of a understanding, and when you get the opportunity to, I'm assuming, right? I'm not never been a streamer, but when you're talking to that person, you're actually getting that. You're getting a real person, and you could ask the general question. If I'm 10 days this week, not 7 days, and most people will just say, look, that's not a problem. Like, we're not going to go away because you didn't produce a video exactly 1 week apart or whatever. And you just get a little bit, connect more on a human level.
Exactly. And you know what? The community have been so supportive of my decisions. Like I'm actually super grateful for that, because it is very easy, especially with Twitch. If you stop, people forget about you. They do.
Yeah.
Like we're very fortunate. Like I've done a couple live streams. Like it's usually just the PEL races, obviously because I have that contract with the guys at PEL to do the season. Whenever we do those races, we still get like 50 or so viewers, because those people, like, they really, if you make an impression on them, they'll turn up when you're streaming, even if it's been a long time. But obviously, the numbers are lower because people do forget.
Yeah.
If you're only relevant as long as you keep doing what you're doing. But the guys in the community have been so good. Like the thing that they're always saying is like, you do what you need to do for you and your family, because that's more important. Like they get it. They get that. I don't like the term like content creator, because like this is something I enjoy doing.
Yeah.
It's one of the many things I enjoy doing in life. I don't like having that, because when people have that kind of that stigma attached to them, it's not a job, and people kind of do have that expectation, like that you need to keep doing it. They want constant content. They want constant stimulation. So I found myself very fortunate that it's not in our community. I don't have viewers. I have friends.
Yeah.
And they're so supportive. So we've been very lucky in that regard, because I basically just stopped live streaming. I had to. And I felt really bad about it, but I'm surprised most of them actually understood, and still turn up to watch when we do live stream. Although now we'll be doing it every week, so yeah, it's okay. Back in business.
And it'll probably take a few weeks, but come back to you. It's an interesting point you just brushed over, where you're still even though you've got a nice little following and stuff going on now, you still work, you're still producing this as your enjoyment and your hobby. I think to most people that for a person like myself, I watch a lot of. I'm a content consumer. I know that. I don't.
Yeah.
I never think like I do this out of pure enjoyment. But you often think to yourself, what's the crossover point where it actually becomes viable as an income? Like, is it 10,000 followers? Is it 50,000? These are all would be the pipe dream things that people would think about before they even start producing that first video that might actually. Have you got any insight into what you think it would take to actually become a solo streamer? Like, I know Boosted and stuff.
I would say, I would say that for YouTube, it's not, even Twitch as well, it's not so much about the viewers and the subs that's giving you income. It's how you can use that amount, that figure, to market yourself to companies to get sponsorship deals.
Okay.
That's one of the things. You got to be able to use that following to then make companies take you seriously. Like that's how we got the partnership. Like I don't know if you know, we're an official brand ambassador for Track Racer.
Yep.
I was speaking to them. They were like, "Man, we really love your content. Like, could you throw some numbers at us?" If you're not able to throw the numbers at them like that and say like, "This is the impressions that we get. This is how many viewers we get," like per stream, you're not going to be able to to bring in anything more that'll help you do it as a full-time job. It's very hard to maintain a live stream or a YouTube channel just solely based on views. Like the people that do it full time and they make a lot of money, like the ones that you see that are doing really well for themselves, they are on like 1 million subscribers. They get hundreds of thousands of views. To put like a kind of a value behind it, it depends on like, for example, with YouTube, it depends on the topic of video you're making, but generally sim racing, it depends what you make. Like if you're doing just sim racing content, it comes under gaming, which is actually quite a low pay threshold. It kind of depends. Like sometimes it fluctuates, but it goes by thousands. Every 1,000 views, you get a certain amount.
Okay.
Because every viewer has to watch an ad, unless obviously they're a YouTube premium member. Then the length that they watch your video for is what earns you income. But usually, every 1,000 videos for gaming related videos will get you between $1 to $9, I would say, per 1,000. So it's not much, is it?
No.
When you think about it.
No. Okay.
Well, that's what I mean. Is someone with like Super GT, he has nearly 1 million subscribers. He does a lot of like Gran Turismo and karting content. He gets like over 1,000, over 100,000 views, if not more, per video. So he would be getting, $900, $1,000 per video. He puts out 3 videos in a week. That's what, $3,000 in 1 week. Then that's when you can say like, yeah, I can do this full time.
Yeah.
With Twitch, it's really, the money from Twitch is really not good. For anyone wondering, like in Australian dollars, a subscription, like a viewer will pay for a subscription for your channel. They'll pay $9 Australian, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Twitch will then take half of that. So they'll take $4.50. That $4.50 then gets taxed by the US government at whatever rate it was. I'm trying to remember. And then it obviously gets taxed during tax time for you, where you have to declare it as an income in Australia.
Yeah.
So out of that $9, you're seeing like $3. You're seeing like a third of what it is. So yeah. So it's really, it's more, you want to get the high viewership. I'm talking about performance wise here. Obviously, you stream to share your passion with people, but in terms of performance, the high viewership is not what gives you the money. It's what makes companies take you seriously to then secure business partnerships with. That's what is going to get you the money.
Right. That's such an interesting
because you got things like, because you got affiliate codes. They're a big one.
Yep.
So like obviously we've got a few, like we've got the guys from Suit Speed. They're in PEL as well.
Yep.
Richard Mayer. Yeah, he runs the company. We've got Track Racer. Like every time someone purchases, we get about like, they're all different. Like I think Track Racer gives me 5%. Himo setups give me 10%, I think it is.
Yep.
These all help because the more viewers you have, it doesn't cost them extra to buy the product using your code. So they know they want to help you out. So like, for example, one of our viewers bought like a whole setup the other day. And that got me, a couple $100. That's where you get a lot of the income from these partnerships with affiliate codes or sponsorship deals. Viewership is just the key that makes these companies take you seriously.
Yep. That is a really, really cool insight into it for someone that doesn't know a whole lot about how, like, I just assumed advertising, like adverts that were displayed in your video would be a main source of income. But that's really interesting to see how that works or hear how that works in the back end.
It's a very small amount. The one thing I will say though, mate, is to anyone that is wanting to try and do this, please do not think of the money because it is not, like I've just explained, it is not enough to warrant being a full-time job. You can't have that in your head when you're trying to do this. You need to do it because you enjoy it, because you enjoy interacting with people, because, you enjoy sharing your passion, because you're going to have so many obstacles along the way. It's not easy going to work, coming home, being exhausted, then having to turn your high energy face on,
Yes.
Like half the time before I stream, I don't want to talk to anyone. You know what I mean? I just want to close my eyes and go to sleep. But have some coffee or an energy drink, and then turn the camera on and
Get
hey
amped.
guys, what's going on? Welcome back. Let's go. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Let's go. Like, you know what I mean? It's really, it's not, if you're not passionate, you're not going to be able to turn that switch on.
Especially if you've
after a
been
long
up
day
to
at work.
4 a.m. the morning before editing your last video or whatever.
Mate.
and then let's fast forward in 12 months and you'll have a newborn and like, all these different,
Dude.
I couldn't imagine, like, but it's just, it's an interesting thing, because you hear, like, kids in school, and the number one career choice is to be a YouTuber or whatever. Like, so these are all I'm not saying we're out here handing out life lessons by any means necessary, but there's genuine intrigue around it, and any insights like that stuff you just provided then is a really cool insight into how it actually should work.
It is obtainable, but it's hard. I used to sit there, like, I'll admit, before I did any of this stuff, I used to be like, these content creators get money for nothing. Like, this is ridiculous. You know what I mean? It's not. It's so hard, because essentially you're running a business. The only difference is you don't get to just turn up and work 8 hours. That it's a full-time job. Like, it's a 24-hour job. You always have to think of how to make things fresh and, what you're going to do next. It is genuinely hard. You have to be in it because you love it, or you will fail. That's just the way it is, unfortunately.
Yeah. All right. Well, Alex, I knew this was an episode that needed to be a standalone interview because of how long it was going to go. I knew you'd be an interesting person.
You mean because I talk too much?
Well,
that's why.
I don't know you, but I also feel like, just through the, ever since I punted you at Monza, it's just been constant. Like, you've been regularly in touch, and it's always been good natured. And I knew
there's been a connection, mate, because you left your rear wing in my side fender. That's why it's still stuck there today.
I can come back and get it at any time. Look, mate, it's been a fascinating, like, honestly, such a really engaging conversation. I'm so glad you're at a good spot with it all now. And you sound like you've got some incredible insights into the world of, content creation and video streaming and all sorts of other stuff. But look, I'll thank you for coming on, but also I just wanted to wrap up the part of the conversation that was about yourself and your channel and your stuff. And I've got a bit of a lighthearted question here to finish on.
Yeah.
I don't know how much of
No, I don't have OnlyFans.
No. I've used up all my. No, I haven't used up all my subs on OnlyFans, but I was going to say, look, I don't know how much of the podcast you've managed to catch, but look, we haven't been particularly kind to Le Mans Ultimate. Certainly, Mike.
Okay.
I'm gonna be, mainly because with the history surrounding the company behind it. But you, on the other hand, are perfectly positioned to convince us as to why we should explore Le Mans Ultimate as a serious sim racing title. Can you give us a passionate plea as to why you are all about Le Mans? Like, obviously you're attracted to the WEC cars and stuff, but just talk a little bit about that interest and why Le Mans Ultimate is right up there for you in terms of sim racing.
Jeez, I didn't know I had to get my salesperson.
You don't have to. You can run shit to the curb if you want to. But
tell you what, the devs better be paying me some money after this one. Look, mate, I know that in the past, motorsport games have had a bad rap. I'll say first off, I've never understood what it was at the time because I never played R Factor 2 or really, like, I play sim racing games. If a game's good, I play it. I don't pay attention to the politics in the background.
Yeah.
In my honest opinion, life's too short for that crap. You know what I mean? Like, if some company is buying out a bunch of licenses, like, that doesn't mean anything to me. Like, I care about the game, not the company behind it.
Yep.
As long as it's good and I'm enjoying myself, because I'm a consumer. I don't lobby for any sim. I don't sit there say iRacing's the best. This is the best. That's the best. I enjoy them all, and I think that this whole, like, tribal attitude that you see in sim racing these days, where everyone's just trying to like fight about which, like, why their sim is that they've chosen is the best. Like, I think it needs to go, because the problem with that is it, like, these companies, they just want you to play their game. You know what I mean? I mean, they're glad that you're having a good time and whatever, but they just want you to play their game, right? I'm getting to why Le Mans Ultimate is good. Trust me. I know this sounds bad right now.
You're right.
No. But at the end of the day, you can't sit there and defend the game itself, like, because then they get lazy, because they're like, oh yeah, they love our game. These guys, like, yeah, we're doing great. They're not going to make their game better then. You know, you need to be sitting there saying like, yeah, iRacing's really good, but you know what, ACC does this really good. You know, so why would I limit myself? I'll play that too. And because when they see that, they're like, oh, a lot of these players are playing ACC because they do this. How can we put this in our game? And then it makes them make their game better, you know? So that's why with the whole tribal thing with Sims, I don't believe in it, because we're the consumer. We should stick together, and we should make the companies that make these Sims work harder to give us better games. We shouldn't be defending the things that they've done. We shouldn't be saying like, oh no, iRacing's tire model is really good and you're just bad for saying it. No, if it's shit, just say it's shit. Yeah. Sorry, pardon the language.
You're right.
Because you know what? That will make them make it better.
Yep.
If it genuinely is bad, you know. With Le Mans Ultimate, like, I get the whole issue. Like, I'm from what I'm seeing, the issue with motorsport games is they bought a bunch of licenses aggressively, like as in they just went out and bought a bunch of licenses, and without thinking about having the actual money to make the games for those licenses. So it stopped companies like iRacing and some other ones grabbing a lot of these licenses, because people were like, oh, I would love to race those, you know, the British touring cars, like that one that they do the Hyundai Ns and all the other ones in that thing. But you know, I can't do that because Motorsport Games bought the license, so iRacing doesn't have it now. So I get the frustration with that. But the thing for me is, I never played R Factor 2. I've raced on iRacing, ACC. I've had my fun. Le Mans Ultimate came out. I've heard the bad things about Motorsport Games, and I was like, you know what? It might be a crap game. It might not be a crap game. I'm just going to see if it's good. I'm not going to hold my breath for it. If it's good, then I'll play it. If it's not good, I'm just going to trash it. Yeah. Then it came out, and I just haven't stopped playing it because it's just been so fun. I would say, like, what does it for me, first off, is the feeling of the cars feels really good. There's been some conversations over whether or not the hypercars feel realistic. At the end of the day, how the hell are we going to say if they're realistic or not? I mean, I haven't driven a real hypercar. I think that would be a very bad financial decision for a team to put me in a hypercar, because it's going to end up upside down or in pieces, one or the other.
If we could work out how to turn it on.
Yeah, exactly. If we could work out how to turn it on. But, you know, like, how do we know if iRacing's hypercars are better than Le Mans Ultimate? We don't drive these things. And you know, it's hard to ask people, like the real life drivers, because you're not going to go to a driver that drives in the WEC and ask him, oh, is Le Mans Ultimate really that realistic? He's probably going to say it is, or he's going to say, I don't drive it because I don't do sims, because you know, that's the official license game for the series. I don't believe that when drivers are asked their opinion on it, that they're going to say bad things about it, because they need to support it because it's for the series.
Yep.
You know what I mean? They're either going to say that, yeah, it's good, or I don't play it. So, you know, I wouldn't even bother with that. So, but in terms of the actual game, it feels really good. Like the force feedback, it's just like you feel everything. It's especially the like, to give you an example, Sebring in iRacing, you know, it's really bumpy.
Yep.
Obviously, we know that. You feel quite a lot, even with iRacing's force feedback, which is apparently getting improved soon. But then in Le Mans Ultimate, it was like Sebring was bumpy like times 10.
Yeah.
Like I'd never felt something so raw. But the thing is, because it felt so just brutal, it felt real. Like I think that to this day, Le Mans Ultimate makes me feel like I'm in the car the most out of any sim, in terms of the actual feeling of the car. There's a lot of talk about the slip angle in the rear tires, where it can be very slidey. I think that because I'm usually someone that drives under the limit, I don't feel that. So that might be why I'm not feeling the problem with the slip angle or whatever it is.
Okay.
But in terms of the drive feel, it feels great. The sound is amazing. Like, it's not just the sound of the engine, it's the in cockpit sounds. Like, you can hear things moving around, and it just, you get that feeling that you're in the car. It adds to that immersion.
Yep.
And then the online itself is just really solid. Honestly, like, you have a driver rating, like same thing as iRating in iRacing. You have a driver safety rating, which is the same thing as safety rating in iRacing. Then you have multiple, how would you say, races that you can enter that happen on like a 40-minute turnaround.
Yeah.
Like, when you finish one race, the next one's in 20 minutes, just like iRacing. And the racing you get in there, it's pretty good. It actually, I would say it's the same as iRacing. Like, I get as many accidents in that as I would see in iRacing. Like,
Yep.
majority of the time, like, say you did 10 races, you might have crashes in 3
Yep.
out of the 10, sorry. So it's about the same as iRacing, I would say. It's just really, I would say it's like iRacing without the money requirement.
Yep.
Because it's $40. You got the WEC cars. The only thing is, it's not competing with iRacing. I just want to make that clear, though. It's more like, I would say, ACC, where it's just like a spin-off of the original game, which is, R Factor 2 or Assetto Corsa, but it's been licensed to cover the cars in that license. So obviously ACC covers SRO,
Yep.
And then Le Mans Ultimate covers WEC, and they've done that perfectly well. Like, the cars feel amazing, sound amazing. The racing is really fun. That's why I've been stuck on it. It's just, it could be a personal preference thing because I love, the hypercars and just the WEC in general. But yeah, I just have. If it was bad, I wouldn't be playing it. If the other ones I felt were better for me, then I'd be playing them. If that makes sense. I just really enjoy the game. It feels really good to drive on, and the online experience has been basically like iRacing, just constant racing. Click join, you're in a race with people more or less your skill level, and it's been great, really fun.
I've loved the sound. Even just looking at your, like, I'm a big sound person.
So good, man.
It's been the perennial letdown on iRacing. It's the sound for me. When I'm in a race, the graphical limitations of iRacing never bothered me because concentration levels are so up. But there's something about the loss of sound and therefore, I would say, immersion in the car that I often find myself, and I've mentioned this before, I'll often find myself plugging myself into ACC and just doing hot laps for an hour because I just want I want my ears blasted out by the sound. Yeah. And like
it is the language of the car. It is the language of the engine, is the sound. That's how you can tell if it's a V10 or a V6 or because if it's a V10, it's just screaming at you and it just wants to go faster. And if it's a V6 turbo, well, then it sounds like a wet fart. So it's the language. It's the language of the car, and that's why it's so important because that's like I was telling you at the start of this podcast. Like we used to have the F1 in the background on the TV because we just want to hear the cars on the broadcast, or often what's the most fun thing about going to races? I mean, half the time I feel like when I go to a real race, whether it's at Sandown or whatever, I don't know who the hell's winning because I'm sitting in the grandstand and I can't tell who's winning or not. But I'm just hearing these cars and like the smell, the sound. That's what makes you feel like you're there, and it's the adrenaline that comes with it. So that's probably why I gravitate towards LMU as well, because it does sound and car feels so well.
Yeah, I remember, like I went to Oz Grand Prix. This was back probably 2017 when the V6s were well and truly in, and I remember for all the categories and classes there, I'd tell everyone the best car that was on track was the I forget what they call it now, but it was like the hot lap in the 2-seater F1 car, which was still running the V10 or the V12. Yeah. And I just remember, and the sort of people would sort of ask like, what, why was that the best sounding car? And I could say that I remember standing on the exit of turn 1 on the embankment, and I'm like, if F1 car would go past, even a V8 supercar would go past, and you would the sound of the F1 car would be gone by the time it's down into the next turn. I said I could tell you exactly where that hot lap challenge car was on the track at any point in time, because you could hear it the whole way round. When it was,
it's so good, isn't it?
It was like reverberating off skyscrapers and bouncing back across the track. Like, I kind of understand.
It's amazing.
I understand in some regards why people would be frustrated with that, but I can also just sit there and go, "Wow, what an era that would have been to listen to a whole field of those go
so
around."
Good, man.
And you just
It's the same for me too. Like the first time I went to Sandown I think it was last year, for the GT World Challenge Australia. The first thing I heard was when they were doing like the practice session, the Audi GT3, the KFC one, just going around the track, like it was screaming, like it was so good, like it was popping my ears. And then I don't know if you're familiar with the track Sandown. It has a very long straight at the end there, right? And then it goes off into a left-hander. That part where the driver's going off the throttle and on the brake, because you hear you hear the exhaust pipe pop from the downshift from 6th gear to 5th, and it was just like you were just waiting for it every time for that pop. But it just sounded so good, And that's, like I said, I think that the reason why I would recommend Le Mans Ultimate to people is that the raw essence of what a racing simulator is, which is what car feel, let's just say force feedback in general, car feel, tire feel, sound, and the visual experience. It's all there. The raw basics of what makes a good simulator, it's all there. The bones are good. Now they just need to keep building up on it, because they have made a genuinely good game, and it's the only reason why I've stuck with them and really supported them now, is because I really do believe in that game. Because like I said to the guys before it came out, if it's bad, I'm just not going to play it. Because why would I waste my time, especially with the reputation that the company's had in the past? But that I was actually very impressed, and not just by the game, but the attitude that the developers have. Like, from after 1 week of the game being out, there was a major patch straight away that fixed a lot of issues. Like and now the game's been out 1 month from a week ago, so it's been a month and a week. There's been 2 major patches and like 5 or 6 hot fixes. Like they're smashing it out. Like they're really trying hard to make this game. And you know what? They have to, because obviously the company's in dramas. It needs to be a good game too. So when your back's up against the wall, that's when you do your best work. And even just the fact where like I mentioned to you, they have different races. Like you have these short races that happen every 40 minutes. Then you've got slightly longer ones that happen every hour. Every hour. And then you have these like weekly events that happen 4 times a week. And it's like a long race, like a 2-hour race or a 3-hour race. I said to them, like, guys, we can't do them in this country, because the only times that are feasible for us are the 1 p.m. session, because they only happen 4 times during the day on certain days.
Yep.
I think we got disconnected. No, all good. We got disconnected for a second. So as I was saying, there's the races happen 4 times during set days, 3 days a week, I think. And the only feasible times were the 1:15 p.m., which is not feasible because we're at work. And then the other one was 11:15 p.m., which again, not feasible because we're asleep for work.
Yeah.
And I said to them, guys, this is not good. Like, we can't do these races. They didn't argue with me. They said, go and find out what time is good for you guys in your region. Come and tell us. And then literally a week later, now we have an 8 p.m. session.
Yep.
Like they're listening to the community. They're doing all the right things. So no matter what's happened in the past with motorsport games, I'm not seeing that. You know what I mean? I always judge people by how they behave in front of me. I don't really listen to what other people will say about them. And my experience with the developers and the game has been nothing but positive so far. So that's why I honestly recommend the game to people, because at least give it a chance, because it is definitely worth the time.
Yes, well, I think you've convinced me. No, but I think I always knew I would pick it up at some point, but you're back.
Yeah, it's disconnecting for some reason.
Yeah.
It probably knows I've been talking too much, so it wants to kick me out.
Look, I think we'll give it what it wants because look, yeah, we've ticked over. This is the longest episode I think we've ever done, which has been
All right, everyone. That
worth
is
every
it
second.
for this
So
week's
it's been
episode
so
of the Sim
fascinating
Racing in
and
Focus
I-
podcast. I hope you enjoyed that episode.
like I said
with
before,
Alex.
I knew this one would be a
He
this
has
one would be a
certainly
big one,
accomplished a
but
lot
I
in
think
the
you've
couple of
blown even
years that
my
he has
expectations
been
out of the water. It's been so
involved
interesting
in
to
sim
listen to
racing.
you talk.
If
and,
you haven't yet, head over and
by
check
no
out
means did you
Alex's
talk too much.
channels.
Like I was
Like
I
I
was
said before,
definitely,
it's Alex K Racing. You can
listening
find
to
him
every
on
word.
That's
YouTube,
the first time I've heard
Facebook,
someone say that. Usually it's the other way
Twitch,
around.
I can't,
and
mate. I
TikTok.
can't speak
I'm
highly
sure,
enough of
if you
wanting
yeah,
to find
everything
out
you've
spoken
more,
about tonight. So
we'll put Alex's
I am going to
link
wrap up
tree
there though, and
in the show
look,
notes.
just a
So
massive
just
thank
click
you for
on that
coming
and
on,
you'll find your way
and
to
I hope you
whatever
enjoyed it
page of
too.
his you are looking.
It's my
to
pleasure, mate. And like I said, this was
view.
really fun. I love talking about my passion with
Also,
other people
while you're there,
who share
feel
it.
free to
And
like and subscribe.
like
to
it
the
was
Sim
so
Racing
good
in
just being able
Focus
to talk
YouTube
to
channel.
you
We're
about
also on
just everything that
Spotify,
goes on
Apple
in my head
Podcasts, and
when
Google
it comes to
Podcasts.
the journey and what's
if you
good
haven't
about it,
yet,
what's bad about it.
give us a
And like I said,
follow
if the one thing
or
I would
subscribe to the
hope
channel.
people take away from this
Let
is
us
if
know
you
that
are
you're out
looking
there. Feel
to
free
get
to
into
comment
it,
on anything
try
you
it.
found
Like
of interest in the show or any other
not
topics
try
you
it
might
and wonder,
like discussed in
what
the
if.
future.
Just make sure you're
But
passionate
otherwise,
about
guys,
it.
it's been
Because
a great
if you
episode.
are
I thoroughly enjoyed
and
this one
you work
tonight.
hard, you can
Hope
definitely
you
find
did too,
success.
and
Definitely.
we'll talk to you all next
That's
week.
awesome stuff,
Bye for
mate.
now. All right, well, you hold the line and we'll wrap this up. Thanks again, everyone, for tuning into this episode. I'm sure you will enjoy it.
Thanks, Dean. You can come pick up that rear wheel later.
I think I'm done with the GT3 swing. I need to use it.